Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I have a special guest, Rashida Strober, and I'm just going to provide some basic information about her, and I hope that she can provide some additional details about her background. But for those of you who do not know, Rashida Strober is the world's first dark-skinned activist. Don't get it messed up. She's the author of 5 books. She's also done 2 plays about dark-skinned issues. One of those plays is A Dark Woman's Revenge, and we're going to talk about that. That will be the focus of this discussion. We're also going to talk about colorism in the Black community and other related issues. So with that, I'll just say, Rashida, welcome to New Possibilities. And I wanted to find out if there are other things that you want to share about your background before we get started into, the discussion.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you again for having me on. I'm really excited to come on here and talk about dark skin. I love that's with dark skin, y'all. I just am. That's just how it is. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody that's in. I just want people to know that I have been doing this dark skin campaign, dark skin advocacy, dark skin activism since 1998. For a very, very long time. I am the first activist / artist / author to focus my work exclusively on dark skin. I have literally never wavered. This is literally what I do because the issue is so important to me because I like to let people know, back in 1998 in the 90s, I am a child of the 90s. I grew up in the 80s as a child and then a teenager in the 90s. And so I grew up with the dark skin mental abuse, the black ugly jokes, all that. Whatever you could think of in regards to being called something disparaging due to dark skin tone, I've been called that. That's why I started writing about the dark skin bullying because that's what happened to me. You understand? So during the 80s and the 90s, listen, there was no one talking about dark skin, okay? And I searched, especially as I came of age, in my late teens and 20s, I started looking, to some of my favorite artists, for example. I like to point out Lauryn Hill. She was big at the time in the late 90s. I looked to see, is Lauryn talking about dark skin? And then I looked to see other artists. Are they talking about it? No one was speaking on it, and it frustrated me tremendously. And so I decided, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and keep waiting for someone to talk about dark skin. Let me do it. And then I was given the opportunity to speak at St. Petersburg College in '98, and I had bought a magazine back then. It was called Magazine Publication. And Alec Weck, that's her name. She's super dark skinned. Some of y'all know who she is. She's on the cover of Elle magazine at this time. I bought the magazine and I was intrigued that they would listen to what I'm saying. I was intrigued that they would actually let a dark skinned woman this black with no hair be on the magazine. So I bought the magazine. I still have the magazine to this day from that time. And I started researching into who this dark skinned woman was. And I ran into a barrage of comments at the time about black people and how they felt about how she looks, saying that she was ugly, she was manly. And I noticed a pattern that she was getting all this negative criticism for her skin tone. So I decided that I was going to take advantage of this opportunity at St. Petersburg College and talk about this issue. And so, now I look back years later, I look down the line years later and I see the comments that I sometimes get from people. But let me tell you something. Back in 19, I already got all these comments. I was well groomed and well primed for it. You understand? I didn't know that social media that would come into existence and all this stuff would happen in regards to creating this dark skin lane to talk about. But I was primed for it because back then, let me tell y'all something. I've been called every name in the book: a hater, jealous, all kinds of names. None of that stuff puts me off. I don't care what you call me because you know what? I'm telling the truth. And that's very important for me to tell the truth, the honesty aspect of it, to speak my truth, to tell the truth of what is going on with other dark-skinned people. So that right there trumps everything for me. So I started, when I spoke on Alec Weck at St. Petersburg College at the time, that gave birth to dark skin activism, the dark skin activism that I engage in consistently to this day. So, and I have to say, because I say this in all my interviews, some people disagree with me, but I like to tell the truth. Cola Booth is the only other person. And actually, when I researched, she actually was doing it before me because I was a teen in the 90s. And she was talking about dark skin, specifically advocating for dark skin beauty. Like I'm actually writing a new book called Inventing Dark Skin Activism, the Rashida Strober story. I'm editing the book right now as we speak. Fire. It's about 200 and something pages and counting right now. And I actually talk about Cola Booth creating that lane. We do see people talking about some of these celebrities. I believe you mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about Gilbert Arenas, celebrities that I call our darkest, talking about dark-skinned women. Let me tell you who created that lane, a woman named Cola Booth. I'm telling y'all. And let me tell you something. This is dark-skinned history. This is a new paradigm of history. And I'm like a walking book because I know the history of it because I was there grinding and searching and trying to figure it out. In fact, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but all these things are popping up in my head. As an undergraduate student, I actually did a documentary on dark-skinned women. There's a community activist in Tampa. I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but maybe one day she will. Maybe we'll team up one day because she was one of the people I interviewed. It was for a Black Studies class dealing with Black women. And I decided to interview dark-skinned women to get their view on how they felt, on how. So it was primarily dark-skinned women from socioeconomic backgrounds and dealing with the welfare system and political activism and that kind of thing. And this sister is so freaking powerful. I'm completely in awe of her. And she told her story, and I'm just amazed by her to this day. So it's just so many different things I have been doing specifically around dark skin. And it's not to negate other people. It is just to call attention to these issues that were swept under the rug. So it's just really an exciting, wonderful ride. I'm happy to look at where it started from in '98 to where it is now. It is just absolutely amazing, which is why I'm writing the book, Inventing Dark Skin Activism, so that students of darkism and students of dark skin activism 100 years from now, when I'm dead and gone, they will understand. They will understand, okay, this is the legacy of it. This is how this thing was made into an issue. Literally, it had to be made into an issue because people, I've been, like I tell people, I've been kicked out of family members' houses because they did not want to hear it. That's why I'm always grateful to people like you that just actually listen, because y'all just don't know. I had a family tell me to leave. You got to go. I'm tired of hearing that dark skin stuff. I'm sick of it. You know what I'm saying? But I just wouldn't relent because I knew in my heart, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's just plain and simple. You know what you're supposed to do, and you either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And I decided I'm doing it. I'm hell bent on it. And this is where I'm at with it. So I know that was a long drawn out answer.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think there's an echo. Yeah, there's an echo. So if you have your YouTube on, your volume up, you have to turn that down and just keep up your Google Hangout volume.
Okay, I don't have anything on. I'm closing out all of my windows here.
Okay.
Just making sure. Okay, I'm not sure why there's all of my windows are closed.
It's fine now. So at the time when you were inspired by Alec Weck, were you familiar with Grace Jones and like Naomi Campbell and stuff like that? Did they have a positive impression on you at the time?
I can't really say that I was really familiar with Grace Jones, although I am now. But I was like really young, so I wasn't like familiar with Grace Jones in terms of the specifics of what she had accomplished and what her struggles were. I knew of Naomi Campbell, and I always thought she was just a beautiful dark-skinned woman. But my worldview in regards to dark-skinned activism and darkism was still developing. So I was still putting together the pieces of what was going on with dark-skinned women at the time. So.
Okay, and you as you proclaim, like, you are the first dark-skinned activist, and I assume that just based on what you have said, that you define yourself as such because you deal exclusively with the issue of darkism, as opposed to others who have talked about colorism, but that wasn't their exclusive focus. Is that correct?
Right, that's correct. Actually, I actually coined the very phrase. That's why it kind of strikes me as funny when people will say to me, "You're not the first dark-skinned activist." And I say to myself, no one ever heard of the actual words dark-skinned activist or dark-skinned activism before I created. And I don't say that to be boastful. I say it because I'm actually shocked when people say to me that I'm not the first dark-skinned activist when I actually created the very phrase dark-skinned activist. And then I say, because I'm about facts and truth, I say, okay, if I'm not the first dark-skinned activist, then surely there must be a person prior to me that called themselves a dark-skinned activist. And surely we must have evidence of that person with the name, the date, et cetera, because I like the facts, the details. The devil is in the details. And no one can ever, to this day, no one has ever been able to specifically tell me who called themselves a dark-skinned activist or said the words dark-skinned activism before me. I'm still waiting for that to happen. Like, I would love to see this evidence, but it doesn't happen. But as you said, the reason for dark-skinned activism, and I want to say that I honor Alice Walker because she coined the word colorism in the 80s. The issue, and I read so much of the colorism literature, to be honest with you, I could go back to school and get a PhD. And I've entertained that idea of doing just that because I have a master's degree already. So it would not be hard for me to go and, get in a PhD program and simply write a dissertation on, issues surrounding colorism. It's easy. So the thing with the colorism literature, and I'm telling you, I have read it and read so many different art. The problem is this. What is lacking is a focus on specifically dark skin. In fact, the reason that the focus on dark skinned people is lacking is because the same reason why people would tell me, why do you just want to talk about dark skin? Why not talk about all Black people? Well, in my humble opinion, I feel that dark-skinned people face a different kind of discrimination. In my opinion, colorism deals with skin tone prejudice or skin tone bias, and it could go either way. It could be brown skin, light skin, medium brown. There's it's a variety of skin tones within colorism. That's not enough, and that is what new paradigms do. They come in and they see in graduate studies, there's a thing called a literature review. For those of you that are familiar with maybe getting a master's degree or a PhD, what you do is a literature review. And the reason that you're doing a literature review is you're trying to and respect the people that have came before you and contributed to whatever field that you're studying. But what you're also trying to do is find gaps in the literature. You're trying to find what here is wrong. Look at the colorism literature, and as a graduate student at the University of South Florida, studying the dark-skinned people of Sierra Leone, looking at this, there was a common theme, and I talk about the idea of the burning question in my book, Inventing Dark-Skinned Activism. And I have to give credit for that idea to a professor named Professor Carr, who is a professor of European history, and he's a white person, but that's okay because ideas can come from anybody. But he always talked about the burning question. And the burning question for me was, why is it that the darkest people are treated the most disrespectful? And I tell you, I hounded professors about this. No, they dodged it. They would not answer the question. And that's what really drives dark-skinned activism. That's what really drives me, because I needed to understand what is going on here. So it took a series of different things to help me to understand that, and I'm still understanding. For example, looking at my graduate thesis on the dark-skinned people of Sierra Leone, looking at why did the Civil War take place in Sierra Leone amongst these dark-skinned people? Why were they infighting with each other? So we can look at things. There's an idea in my book, Darkism, 25 Ways Dark-Skinned People Are Discriminated Against. There's the idea of systemic economic darkism. So that falls in line with helping me to understand why the dark-skinned people are discriminated against, because it's systemic. It's darkism, and it's dealing with economics. You take a look at the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. They were basically leading the charge and setting the economic policy. And it did lead to infighting, and it did lead to instability within the country. So these are the kinds of things that have just like it just really just eats at me, and I need to understand this intellectually. The performer side of me said, okay, how can I help other people to understand this in an entertaining way, and bring this out. And so that's why darkism is so passionate to me, and it's a new paradigm, because colorism did not address that. Colorism is what colorism is. The colorism scholarly literature is what the colorism scholarly literature is, and I appreciate it. I got a stack of scholarly literature right here on my desk. I read it all the time. But the new paradigm is darkism, dark skin activism. Like I said, 100 years from now, it's going to be studied in schools and colleges. I know this already. So that we can understand what is going on with the dark skinned people of the world, what's happening, and then understand and institute policy to help people. That's what this is all about. At the heart of this is really economics. Looking at Sierra Leone. If anybody studied Sierra Leone, and you could just, Sierra Leone is a case study. Okay. If you can generalize the issues in Sierra Leone to the issues throughout the continent. Okay. If anybody is looking at that, they can clearly, and they're honest with themselves, you can clearly see this idea of darkism. And I just wanted to conceptualize it first for myself to understand, because I need to understand.
Right.
And then I can help other people understand. I hope I answered your question. I know that was a long drive.
Yeah, you answered it. So I was looking over your bio, and I saw that you majored in political science. You have a master's degree in political science. How did you go from political science to being an actress and a playwright and all that kind of stuff? Why did you study politics as opposed to studying acting? I'm just interested in that.
Because I love history. Again, the main thing that I wanted to do is understand, why do human beings treat each other the way they do? That's really the simple answer. I've always needed to understand it, and it's just frustrated the hell out of me that I couldn't find concrete answers. And it's not always straightforward. So the only way that I felt that I could do that is to study history. So my bachelor's degree is in history. And politics is about resources. Politics is an extension of history, and it's about resources. It's about, somebody said, who gets what and how much. And what I found is that I could find a way to bring together, marry the performing arts with political, social, and historical issues, because that's what acting is all about. It's about human beings. It's about the human struggle. I mean, that's what's going on. Somebody said people refer to politicians as political actors. They're saying that for a reason, because that's what they are. They're we just all actors on a stage. You know,
so
people come up here.
Oh, excuse me. Did you study acting at all? How did you become such a good actress? Were you self-taught, or did you have lessons and all that kind of stuff?
I did not study acting in school. I started out, let me just go back a little bit. And if people listen to my story, A Dark-Skinned Girl's Triumph, listen to that, you will understand. I started out in the performing arts really when I was in middle school, and was very good at it, and I had a lot of chance to become a really accomplished performer. I received scholarships, was in the newspaper. I mean, it was just, but I came from a very impoverished, disadvantaged background with a mother who simply, and I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not into to my mother in any way, but I'm just letting people know to answer your question. Economic problems. We were poor, homeless, all kinds of stuff, to where a parent could not see the talents or gifts that maybe the teacher sees. And my mother was not doing things that she needed to do to help progress it along. So the acting was, the development stopped in school. probably around like, I want to say about 10th grade. And I wound up dropping out of school, subsequently getting a GED and having to put all that stuff on a back burner. And a dark-skinned girl's triumph tells the whole story. So, but I always had it in my head because that's just the type of person that if I want to do something, I'm not going to leave it alone until I figure out a way to get it done. So I just said, okay, let me go at it. Let me go this way. If I can't go that way, let me go this way. Let me just go to school. Let me get a degree and and then I'm going to come back to this. And
so what, oh, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, you can cut me off.
All right. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, like, what advice would you have to somebody that's struggling? Like, you talked about how you dealt with poverty and homelessness. Like, what inspired you to continue to become the success that you are today? And what kind of words of inspiration do you have for those who are in a similar situation tonight?
No matter what, you just got to keep going. I know people, you might want me to say something complex. It ain't complex. You just have to keep going. And I guarantee you, I'm a living witness to this, because I can't tell you how many people said that talk about dark skin is stupid, but I see other people are doing it today. You just have to ignore what people are saying and just push it out of the way when mentally or physically remove yourself and keep going. That's all it is to it. You just continue on. And what happens is, stand, and if you could just keep going, when you fall down, you get up and dust yourself off and you keep going, and you're going to fall down many times. You're going to fall. Make failure and falling down and rejection, you better make those your best friend. You better get real comfortable with those three things, because if you're not comfortable with that, then you just might as well just go sit down somewhere, because you're going to fail. You're going to have rejection. People are going to tell you no, but you just got to push it out of the way and keep going. And if you keep going, then what's going to happen is people are going to start to come in and they're going to start to help you, and you're going to start getting resources out of nowhere. Well, it's going to seem like it's out of nowhere, but it's simply because you just kept going. I'm a living witness to that. Starting in 2015, plays all with my own funds. I don't do that anymore. Starting in 2015, because I just said, you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to sit here and let people tell me I can't do this. Who are you to tell me what I can't do? That's laughable to me. I just said, okay, let me just go find another way. So that's what you got to do. You got to keep going. Stay around positive people. That's another thing. If you got people that's around you that's negative and telling you all kind of foolishness, do not sit there and waste your energy arguing with them. Ignore them and continue working. That's what you do, because you'll spend precious time and energy going back and forth with these people that for whatever reason, they decided that they didn't want to continue and go through whatever it took. So they want to try to tell you, you got to ignore them and keep going. Nothing personal. Just keep going. Simple as that.
Yeah. Got me inspired now. So I wanted to ask you, so tell us about your play, A Dark Woman's Revenge. What inspired the play? What is the play about?
Absolutely. A Dark-Skinned Woman's Revenge is actually the sequel to my first play, A Dark-Skinned Girl's Triumph, the Rashida Strober story. So I got to kind of go back a little bit. When I moved to Los Angeles in 2005, I moved out there to pursue acting. And I did get an agent within about, I want to say about 6 months, 4 to 6 months of being there. Lauren, I can't do this right now. Okay? When we done, she want to make a cake. When we done, I promise you we'll make our cake, but not right now. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I got an agent within like 4 to 6 months of being there, but they kept sending me emails telling me I had sister locks at the time. And y'all just saw Lauren's hair. So it's like teeny tiny locks. And I love my sister locks. It cost me a lot of money to put them in, and I didn't want to take them out. So they wanted me to change my hair. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not changing my hair. I would not change my hair. So I met a guy in LA by the name of Stephen Meeks. I don't think he would mind me saying his name. He's a musician, and it's about him. He worked with Donny Hathaway, who is like my favorite artist of all time. And I was just like, oh my God, he worked with Donny Hathaway. But anyway, Stephen inspired.
I love Donny Hathaway too. He's one of my favorite R&B singers.
I love Donny Hathaway. I love him too. Yeah. So Stephen Meeks, he told me, he said, Rashida, you need to write your own show. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he started to take me to see one person shows. It was I saw a one man show at UCLA. I saw a one woman show. I saw a lot of shows. I saw there's a brother that does a great one man show about Muhammad Ali. I saw his show. So I was just all over the place, just intrigued by this idea of, oh, these people getting up on stage doing it. And Stephen kept telling me, I said, well, how am I going to do this? He said, you got to write it. And I said, okay. So I just sat down one day and started writing my own experience, started to talk about it. And then I incorporated, of course, I couldn't leave the dark skin stuff alone. So there was a poem that I had actually wrote. And I really don't do spoken word, but this particular character, the character was based on myself. But this particular part in the play, she talked about being dark skinned and all the stuff that she went through. And I noticed this is where the idea of the talk back came in 2006 when I performed a dark skinned girl's triumph in Los Angeles at a theater called Theater on Pico Boulevard. I performed the show, and the audience, they just kept talking to me about the dark skin stuff I was talking about. And I was like, wow, they just kept wanting me to go into detail about it. And I did. I just talked about it. And I said, you know what? I said to myself, I'm going to write the sequel to this. And that's when the idea came to me. In 2006, I wrote a dark skinned woman's revenge. Now, I copywrote the piece with the Writers Guild of America. So the original name was not A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge. The original name was the Joma Legend Revenge of the Dark Skinned Girl. So over time, I changed it and just kept writing it and developing it, developing the characters. It was rejected and turned down to some theater festivals. I went through a lot of stuff and rewrites and all kinds of stuff. That's why I said you just got to just do the work, ignore people and do the work. It's simple as that. And so what eventually ended up happening is I just developed the characters over time, and I eventually got accepted to the Atlanta Black Theater Festival, the very first one. I did the reading of A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge, and I started doing readings back in 2010, 9 around St. Petersburg where I live, because what performers will do or playwrights will do when they write a play, they'll do what's called staged readings. So I did a lot of staged readings and then audience talkbacks. And people loved it. And what I started to do was I would leave these little small white comment cards because I really wanted people to tell me what they thought and be free to do it and not trying to flatter me. I don't like flattery. Just tell me the truth and I'm good. So I said, you could just write your comment and write down what you think. And the reviews I got show after show that I did, people just loved it. And I was like, wow. And I couldn't even believe it. In 2010, at the Royal Theater, and it was just it went over just phenomenally. And then I got good reviews. I did the full production at the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. I just did the Washington DC Black Theater Festival. This was the second time that I was on the festival in July of this year, and it's just been growing and growing and growing, and that's really how it came about. But it's just been so much work that I had to put into just continuously developing it, because as an artist, as a writer, you want to top yourself. I'm constantly fighting with myself to top it. Like, how can I make this? It doesn't matter how good people say something is. I'm like, okay, I'm always second guessing. Is this really good? They're just saying that. How can I make this better? So that's what it is with this play. But it's just
constantly improving it or making changes to it.
This time, what I'm doing is I've learned how to let the characters roll. I got comfortable enough because it took me about 6 months to a year. I had to memorize the entire script. And I remember I wrote the play to cast other dark-skinned women. But when I started to go seek out other dark-skinned women, the ones I approached, they didn't believe in it. They thought it was just like a crazy idea. Why are you casting dark-skinned women in this light? And I was getting resistance. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to sit back and keep waiting on people to like this. I'm going to do it myself. So out of necessity, I decided to play all 5 of the characters in the play. There's actually a 6th character, which is in the book version of the play that I wrote. But because it's a lot of work, it's physical. So I only play 5 of the characters. And it's, like I said, it's out of necessity. So it's just been a wonderful experience to just get out of these characters' way over time that's what I do. I just let them go. There is a script, yes, but now it's like they just roll. I know these women intimately. I sit down and have conversations with them. We talk. This is what we do. I'm serious. And I let them. Oh, Lauren up here. Why are you putting on my lipstick? She got my lipstick. I gotta move my lipstick out of the way. But so yeah, I mean, and I still have in the back of my mind, I always say, it's going to get to the level where I'm going to license the play out, because I don't want to keep playing all these characters, even though I love doing it. But the original intent was to create work for other dark-skinned women. And so
your play has 5 characters. And can you tell us a little bit about the characters and what's the overall theme or message of the play?
Right. The overall theme, I was moving my tea out of the way for Lauren. I want her to spill this on the laptop. The overall theme of the play is simply to tell the real truth, the real deal about what it's like to be a dark-skinned female. And that's what this play does. It's very organic and real, based on my own personal experience and my observations. So the characters run the gamut of women from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So you have the poor, struggling, dark-skinned woman. You have the upper middle class, dark-skinned woman. You know, you have the ghetto, dark-skinned woman. You have different types of dark-skinned women, and I'm just really going in, or they're going in on and telling you what it's like. So it is very raw and real. Like I said, it's just simply telling you what it's like to be a dark-skinned woman and what we go through. And what I have found is that a show, I do an audience talk back, and without fail, someone in the audience always tells me that the characters are relatable to somebody they know. This never fails. And I didn't do that intentionally. I did it because I needed therapy, and I needed to get this out of myself and write it. And not realizing that once I started putting the work out, people was going to be like, oh my God, well, my sister is like this, and I was like, wow. So it also became a therapeutic thing that have attended the show. It was like, wow. I was like, wow. The oldest person I ever had come to my show, I never forget, it was New Year's Day. A lady had came to the Christmas show, and she said, I'm bringing my mother back. Her mother was 99 years old, and she brought her mother. And it was just like, it's been a Lauren, you got to come from over here, then you're going to make the light bulb. So it was just like amazing, the way that the women resonate with women in show, even with all different races. I've had all different races of people come to my show, and it's a universal thing. Lauren, you're going to knock this over, honey. Please don't climb on that. I'm sorry, y'all. What Christmas show?
Don't you remember when I had my Christmas dress on?
Oh, remember the Christmas show? She asked me. Oh, sorry, y'all.
So I wanted to ask you, like, what kind of process did you go through to create? How did you decide, well, this character is going to have these traits? How did you form the characters? Can you walk us through that process?
Stop, please. Stop, Lauren. The characters, they came out. They just came out of me. I just sat down and started writing. That's the honest truth. I didn't really need to hold on one second, y'all, because you gotta sit, Lauren. You have to sit because mommy is interviewing. You can sit right here by me while I'm talking, but you gotta stop moving and jumping up and down. Thank you, ma'am. The characters literally they came out. I didn't really, there was nothing. Hold on one second. Lauren, you're kicking my lights. You can't kick my light. You can look what you're doing. You're making it fall. She's making my lighting fall. You're making my lighting fall. You can't make my lighting fall, y'all. It took me a while to get that light in the right place. Anyway, okay. So the characters, they just came out. I just sat down and I just started writing because I knew these women. They were inside of me. I had observed these women. This is my story. I wanted to get out and just talk about it. So it honestly, the process, if I had to talk about a process, it was just years of experience in it and years of observation that when it was time to come out, like they say, when the student is when the is that this when the teacher is ready, or this, I'm mixing it up, but you know what I'm saying. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. The same thing with writing. When it's ready to come out, it just came out. I just sat there and just started writing. I just knew exactly what I wanted to say. So that was the process.
So you mentioned that some African American women that you talked to about the play or tried to get involved with the play, they had concerns about the light in which Black women or dark-skinned women were portrayed. Can you talk about that? What were their concerns? What were their problems with your characters?
They simply didn't think that I should be talking about this taboo issue. That's it. That's really what it was. It was like this, oh, I don't want to be the one to come out with this kind of thing. Like, I don't want to be. That's why I see people talking about it, dark skin. I'm like, I got like a resistance. People did not want to come out and just outwardly talk about what dark skinned women go through. They wanted to continue to keep it under. It was just too much for them. I remember speaking to a specific person about this, and I really thought that this person was just like the sun, the moon, and the stars. And no disrespect to her if she ever watches this. I'm not saying it in that way. But I saw her artistically as someone that was brilliant enough to pull these types of characters off. But that wasn't her vision. And we kind of was like going back and forth artistically about it. Because I saw her, I was like, I see this clearly. And then I remember I did the show in 2010. And I invited a sister that I had in mind. I had her in mind for one of the characters. And I actually wanted her to come on the stage and do it. See, I didn't want to be the spokesperson that I am now. I was hiding behind these characters. I wanted to hide and have other dark-skinned women come out and talk about this and not me. But because I couldn't get other dark-skinned women to do it, I literally was forced to come out and start talking. I could no longer hide behind these characters that I had created. So, you know, that's the thing. People just did not view this as something that I should be speaking about. It was something that should be kept in private. Do not talk about this publicly. You're embarrassing dark-skinned women. We don't want this side to be seen. We're already seen like this. So why do you have to add fuel to the fire? And right. I didn't feel that way. I felt like I need to tell these stories.
Right. So when somebody leaves the play, like what kind of message should they leave away with or walk away with from the play?
You know, when you leave this play, and the ending, let me tell you something. The ending is not what you think it is. I always say that. It's not what you think it is. Because people hear the title, but the ending is going to leave you a hell of a whole lot higher when you leave than when you came. And you're going to really begin to understand what this is all about. Why I'm even talking about the issues surrounding dark-skinned women and the larger societal issue. People are going to, that's what people walk away with. And another thing I want to say is, as the artist, I have come to the conclusion that it's not my duty to construct an interpretation for people. I'm not concerned with that. I just come, present the character, or let the characters present themselves, and then it's up to the people to decide. You know, it's up to the people to decide. And I truly feel that they're gonna make the right decision. They're gonna make the right. They just are, because it's a human thing.
Right. Now you mentioned, like I was listening to another one of your interviews with someone else, and they were talking about one of your characters, and this particular character has like daddies and mental retardation and all that kind of stuff. And the first thing I thought about when I heard about that character was the movie Precious, and I wanted to know, like, Play. It's not a movie. Play. Does it have like a depressing tone to it, or is it more of an inspirational type of play? Would you compare it to Precious in some respects?
I wouldn't compare it to any play. And again, I don't say that to be arrogant at all. I say it because as strangely as this might sound to people, I'm a person that does not watch TV. I don't go to movies. And the reason why I don't do that is because I grew up, my mother was a Pentecostal Christian, and she said, we can't listen to devil's music, or we can't watch certain TV shows. So I grew up like that. And so this play was written, we got to remember, it was written in 2006. I had not been exposed to other works at all. I never forget this one person that came to the play in 2010. She said that it reminded her of For Colored Girls. And she asked me,
Where's the box that has the cookies in it?
oh, it's in the, I think it's in the refrigerator. She said it reminded her of For Colored Girls. And I told her I had never read or seen For Colored Girls. So the thing is, I personally have never sat and watched a movie or watched a TV show and said, oh, no, this is very organic. And I did that intentionally because I want stuff to be real. I want it to be organic. I don't want it to be based on someone else's work. Now, if, again, going back to what I said earlier, it's the job of the people to interpret.
Okay. Now, since you created your play, have you seen For Colored Girls or seen Precious? And like, how, if you have seen those, how would you compare your play to those? Even though I understand what you said earlier, have you seen those plays or movies?
I have not. Shame on me. I've seen clips of I know that's the weirdest thing. People are like, how you writing plays and you don't go, but I like live theater. That's probably my favorite medium of them all. But I haven't seen it. I saw clips of Precious, and obviously I've heard about Precious, and based on what I heard, you could make comparisons. It's fair to make comparisons. I mean, the human experience is overlapping. That's why it's the human experience, you know. So, but not having actually sat down and saw the movie in its entirety, I can't really. It wouldn't be fair of me to sit here and make comparisons because I've never watched the movie in its entirety, either one of them. So I can't really make.
That's incredible. I mean, I understand your background, but it's like amazing that you haven't seen like a lot of movies, stuff like that.
I don't watch movies. It's just, like I said, my childhood, the way I grew up. Maybe that's the reason why I wanted to be an actor, because my mom, she said this stuff was the devil stuff. She was just not let us watch it. And so it's like, okay, I had to create my own thing from my own imagination.
Grandma is.
Yeah, so you were mentioning like the societal issues of darkism and all that kind of stuff. It just reminds me of the situation involving Kodak Black and Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas made disparaging comments about Lupita Nyong'o because she's a dark-skinned woman. And then that guy, Kodak Black, basically said that he doesn't like black girls, and then he tried to change it and all that kind of stuff. But basically, it's an example where you have these black men that disrespect black women in general and dark-skinned women in particular. And the question is, how do you address that problem? Like, how do you address the problem of a Gilbert Arenas or a Kodak Black? What kind of strategy or approach do you use to address those problems?
Well, my strategy has always been to be honest and just to call it out. This is something I have been doing, like I said, way before social media. I actually had a internet radio show that I started back in 2012 called A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge, where I actually did shows particularly on the black male celebrities that disparage dark-skinned women. That is exactly what I did well before coming to YouTube. So addressing it head on and being honest about it. Another strategy that I use is I also speak in public schools. I have been speaking in public schools for probably about the last 5 years. And I used to work in the school system. So whenever I'm around, because this is a issue that really, it doesn't come from the children, but it runs rampant in the school system. So a lot of darkism, children will pick this stuff up. So I feel like if I can talk to the youth about this and make them aware that, dark skin is beautiful, don't call this person a name because their skin tone is darker, then I feel like I'm making a huge impact. And I've done that because I've been around children who have disparaged other children in schools for having dark skin. I've seen that firsthand, and I've actually dealt with me dealing with the dark skin bullying myself in school, and then growing up working in the school system, seeing it, and I just immediately address it. Everybody stop everything they're doing. We sit down and we talk about it. Also, another way that I have addressed this for years is by doing audience topics. So, for example, I performed A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge for high school students. And we had a long talk back. And I'm telling you, the impact lasted years later, because I've seen several of these students a couple of years later, and they said, "You was that woman that came and did that play." And they would tell me, you know, how the play impacted them to see dark-skinned women in a certain light. There was a young man, I will never forget him. He walked up to me after the play because he didn't want to say his question openly, but he talked about how he was reluctant to date dark-skinned women because he viewed them as being loud and they felt like he was too nerdy. And he told me these things, and he said seeing the play helped him to understand. So it creates an understanding. So this is my way of solving the issue of darkism, is by what I've already been doing, going into the schools, speaking to the youth. I'm actually going to be doing a workshop in November with the Youth Academy here in St. Petersburg, explaining how I came up with how to put together a one-person show. But in the course of that, I'll be explaining the issues. So this is the type of activism that I've just been engaged in for years that actually works. It actually works. And also another thing that I do, been doing this for years, is I do what I call dark skin counseling. And people just started coming to me on the internet. They would run into my work and they would talk to me about their experiences. And people know that I've been through it, so I'm not going to sit here and judge you. When you come to me, I'm not going to say, "Oh, this is all in your head," or "Oh, you just judge." I never do that. I use this and this. I'm listening so they could sound off on me. There's some people that I've been counseling for a very long time, like very quietly behind the scenes. So these are the ways that I have personally addressed the issue. That's what I would say.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, those are some great points, and I tend to agree with that position, you know, about addressing issues and being honest and stuff like that. And one of the things that you're very, you know, known for, like a lot of people got exposed to you because of that whole Kendrick Lamar situation and your honest discussion about that. And I noticed that there was another person who had a different strategy about how to address what they call colorism. And I just want to get your response to some of the things that they were saying. Mm-hmm. Like one thing that they talked about is how instead of like addressing a lot of these stories that come up involving darkism, we need to stop sharing these stories and stop responding to different articles where you have these popular personalities or famous people talking about how they don't like dark-skinned women or black women. And this person also suggested that instead of like responding to those articles and sharing those articles and discussing those articles, people need to boycott those particular publications for even talking about them. Like, you know, for instance, The Root or the Griot for bringing up, you know, the fact that Gilbert Arenas, for instance, is saying disparaging things about Lupita. So what are your thoughts about that? What do you say in response to that kind of suggestion or approach to addressing colorism or darkism?
I can't do that. I would never do that. I mean, even if the publications decided that they weren't going to cover it, I personally, as the dark-skinned activist, the creator of dark-skinned activism, there's no way in the world I could do that. Because for me to do that, or for someone to say that, and I want to say that I'm assuming that the person that made these comments is coming from a good place of, you know, not wanting the negativity surrounding dark-skinned women. But the thing is, just because you ignore something, it doesn't mean that it's going to go away. So I feel that you should deal with it head on. That's the reason why I'm so vocal about it, because for a long time, I was quiet. I didn't say, people just used to, believe it or not, people just used to walk all over me. When I was in high school,
That is hard to believe. I mean, that's real hard to believe. You seem like such a strong
I
person.
know. That's because it took a long time to get myself up to this. I told you I wanted to hide behind my characters. I did not want to be on here like I'm talking. I've been on so many different platforms speaking about this. I never envisioned myself being the one to be like so vocal about this. I wanted to hide. I said I would do the performing arts to hide the Rashida, what Rashida was feeling about this. But the thing is, I had been hiding for years. I had tried to, I don't know, well, you wouldn't know what this is like, but let me try to explain it. Some of y'all out there listening, y'all might, maybe you've been that dark-skinned person that when the popular person came in the lunchroom, or in, because it was for me in the lunchroom, or in the at PE, when you saw them coming, you tried to kind of hide yourself like this. You know what I'm saying? You try to, because you didn't want them to talk about you, and you didn't want to be the center of attention and get laughed at. That's how I was. I was like that for a long time. So there is no way in hell that I am going to backtrack now. That to me, that would be like the death of me. I can't do that. So if these people are bold enough and they're misusing their platform to disparage dark-skinned women for no reason other than you, I mean, I find it to be insane. How could you not like someone because of something that a skin tone that they didn't control that? That doesn't make any rational sense. Right. So people need to be called out. I'm not going to be quiet about it. I don't think that that's a good strategy, because the minute you're quiet about it, that to me means that you're condoning it or you're sanctioning it, and you know about it, you are condoning it. So I have to continue to speak out about it.
Yeah. So what's your response to those who say, well, people have spoke out about it, like they have condemned Gilbert Arenas and that guy Kodak Black and other people who make disparaging remarks about dark-skinned women, but still they continue making these disparaging remarks, and they are not being shamed by people publicly condemning them. So essentially it's pointless, arguing that these people, should be shamed and all that kind of stuff if it's not having any effect on those particular personalities, like a Kodak Black or Gilbert Arenas or even a Lil Wayne. So what's your response to that?
Well, it is having an impact. It's having an impact on the victims of darkism. It's and I know that probably better than anyone, because I've had people that have came to me. For example, there was a person that told me that they thought that this issue of dark skin discrimination was in their head until they read my book, Darkism. They take the book, they work in corporate America, very dark skinned person. They told me that they take the book with them to work every day. Speaking out on these issues has an impact. And the thing is, it's not a Gilbert Arenas problem or a Kodak Black problem, because Gilbert Arenas is older. He might be in his 30s. Kodak Black is maybe in his late teens, early 20s. So this is a generation. It's a generational thing. And that tells me this is systemic.
That's
so
right.
Again, we have to continue to agitate. This is what I do as an activist. I'm an agitator, the dark-skinned agitator, as well as skin activist. This is what I do. I'm not gonna stop.
Can't stop. Won't stop.
Make sure you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like I was watching this other interview that you did with this other guy, and basically he was saying, well, we're buying into this whole Willie Lynch syndrome thing. It's like dividing up the black race when we focus solely on, the issues of dark-skinned women in particular. And, it divides up the community when we constantly talk about colorism and darkism as opposed to just black unity in general. And I've heard you discuss this before. Like, what is your response to people who want to basically turn away from the discussion about darkism and just focus on like just black people in general?
Again, that's
and the issue of white supremacy as a whole.
Right. That's the same thing or similar issue where people are saying don't give the black male celebrities attention. They believe that ignoring it will make it go away. Ignoring it is not going to make it go away. You understand what I'm saying? People want to find a cure for cancer, for example. Okay, cancer, there has been some known cases of cancer being cured. So obviously that tells me that the Gerson therapy, let me just throw that out there. That tells me that, for example, the Gerson therapy, they've gotten at the root cause of the cancer and they rooted it and gutted it out. But if they would have just said, oh, and I believe the story of Dr. Gerson, and I'm just paraphrasing here, he had headaches and he changed up his diet. And that's how he developed the Gerson therapy. And if he would have just ignored the headaches and listened to some of the doctors that said, oh, this is nothing, it'll go away, there's no cure, then, there wouldn't have been cases where cancer has been cured. So it's the same thing in a sense with this whole issue of colorism and darkism. We got to get to the root cause of it. And the way that you get to the root cause of it and the way that you stop it is you talk about it and you make people aware of it, especially, like I said, going back to the children, because those 10th graders that I dealt with, I believe this was around 2011, they're adults now. And their sensibilities, I know their sensibilities are there in terms of dealing with dark skin and maybe in their mate selection, they become more sensitive and aware to it. And that's what you want. You don't want people continuing to say, I don't like a person based on their skin tone, something that they can't control. You don't want that to continue. So you have to address it. You cannot pretend that it's not there, because I promise you, and here's the thing that we got to understand. I've seen this happen. Some people will try to escape it in their mate selection. They will say, oh, let me go marry this person so that I don't have to worry about my child going through this. But guess what? Some of these people, they turn around and have a dark-skinned child. Then what are you going to do? What are you going to do when your child comes home and says someone said a certain name or called them a certain name because of their skin tone? So that's the thing. You might as well just deal with it head on. I just find that dealing with life head on is the best thing to do.
That's right.
You try to skirt it and act like it's not there. Deal with it head on. And let's solve the problem. That's what we got to do. I mean, these people, it just seem to me like they just want to dress it up. And that's just not going to work. That's why I'm the dark-skinned activist, because I'm not going to.
That's right. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, so tell us when and where we can see your play.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I like the way a brother put it. I'm going to be appearing on his show as well. Off Broadway. It's off Broadway in Harlem. All right, and I worked very hard and very long to get to Harlem. I always knew I was going to get to New York, but it just so happens to be in Harlem. So it's going to be November 4th, a Saturday at 6:30 p.m. And it's going to be, I'm hoping I pronounced this name right, the Macy's Documentary Center at 343 Malcolm X Boulevard, my favorite person, aka Lenox Boulevard. So that's the location of it. And immediately after the show, we're going to do a darkism discussion. So that's going to take place at 8 o'clock.
Mama, I think you haven't got it right. I think it as vanilla bar.
I don't know what Lauren's telling me. But
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, how can people purchase tickets to the play?
oh, absolutely. You can go to my website, RashidaStrober.com, aka QueenOfDarkSkin.com, aka TheDarkSkinActivist.com. You can go there and you can purchase the tickets there. It's on Eventbrite. It's called a dark, or if you go to Eventbrite, you'll find it. A Dark Skin Woman's Revenge Hits Harlem. But again, you can go to my website, RashidaStrober.com, and you can find it. I'm going to be creating an event on Facebook where you can go in there and find it as well. Also, I'm asking people that believe in my work to support it from the production side, because I'm a self-producing artist. So if you want to make a contribution to the production fund, because again, I am producing this show myself, you could definitely do that. It goes towards the venue costs, the marketing costs, the travel costs, the camera person costs, all these kind of different things. So definitely consider making a donation, and everybody that donates gets an electronic copy of the book version of the play, A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge. So go to my website, RashidaStrober.com, and The ticketing information is right there, and or you could just come the day of, but I would advise you to get a ticket because it's only 55 seats. So you might want to get your ticket early. And also, if you don't have to be in New York if you want to support by buying a ticket. People have done that in other states. They bought tickets for other people. So there's a multiplicity of ways to support. But I'm telling you, this show right here, y'all want this show is fire. Like, it's absolute and complete fire. I don't mean to toot my own horn. Yes, I do. I gotta do it because it's so good. Critical of myself, but this show is like, man, I'm giving y'all 1,000,000%. Like, y'all getting everything in terms of what it's like to be. Y'all getting it, everything. So yeah, I'm excited.
I wanted to see you when you came to DC, but I had to work at that time, so I may have to make that trip to New York to check you out. So do you have any other tours planned? Like, are you going anywhere else besides New York?
I'm also in talks with a brother from Phoenix. He came to see the show when I went to Tucson in March, and we have been talking about bringing the show to Phoenix, the Phoenix market, in March of next year. So tentatively, we've been talking for March, but if everything goes through, believe me, I'll let people know. And I'm always open to traveling anywhere and presenting the show. So people could easily contact me again by going to my website. If you're interested in booking the show, definitely. I'm always open. So it's on tour.
And if people want to reach you on social media, where can they reach you at? Are you on? You mentioned that you're on Facebook. What's your Facebook? Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. The platform that I use the most is probably Facebook. But I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. You can go to Facebook and just type in my name. It'll come up. You can go to my website, RashidaStrober.com. You can email me. I'm very easy to contact, very down to earth. I mean, this is the people's play because, again, it has been financed since 2015 by the people. So it's the people's play. It's about the people. So I'm easily contactable. So contact me anytime. If I don't get back to you immediately, don't take it personal. It's like I'm working my butt off to produce the play, and it's a lot of things that go. It's a lot of hard work. It ain't no joke. You gotta you gotta work and love it, and that's the stage that I'm at. So yeah, you can contact me on any of my social media.
All right. Well, with that, I want to thank you for joining this Google Hangout. I really appreciate it. You're a great guest. Always welcome here. I look forward to seeing you play sometime or buying your book. And I encourage my audience to support your play as well, to support you by buying your books and supporting your platform. And again, thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on again. It was fun.
All right, and with that, I'll say peace and blessings to everyone. Thank you for tuning in.